magic pill that makes us feel better. But if we've lived, 30 years just punishing our bodies with bad food, bad hygiene in terms of sleep, in terms of taking care of ourselves, it's not going to take 24 hours to feel better. It is going to take time. What that made me do is think, well, why isn't anybody doing this for pets?
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on another amazing episode of Bioenergetics Beat. I'm Heather Gray, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and a certified bioenergetic practitioner. And this episode is brought to you today by Nikki, Unleash the Wellness Within. It's a non-invasive, easily affordable, highly effective approach to wellness. It's a wearable device that puts frequency, better-based life in your hands and on your wrist. You're going to want to make sure to stick to the very end because we have a giveaway that you're going to want to not miss out on. But you're also not going to want to miss out on one word that my next guest has to say because she's absolutely amazing. I fell in love with her the first time I heard her speak. And every time I hear her speak, I continue to fall in love with her even more, if that's even possible. Let's give a big welcome to Dr. Ruth Roberts to the show.
Wow. I mean, that Heather, coming from you, that means a lot because, girl, you got the chops out there.
My face hurts from smiling so much. Like I've been looking forward to this for weeks. I just so enjoy you and everything that you're doing in this world. Well, that and you helped me change my cat's life. I've been doing your crock pot diet with her for I think 7 or 8 months now, and I just adore everything that you're doing. So, who's your little friend you got with
Wait,
you?
this is Hayo, our travel companion. So she is somewhere around 14 years of age. We're not quite sure. And, she's just cruising and enjoying life. So here we are hanging
That's
with you.
awesome.
Right on.
I'm gonna get a perm so I can look like her, and then I can travel with you too, right?
Right on. So it's like if she's having a good hair day, she's totally Tina Turner. If it's a bad hair day, she's looking like Einstein.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself, like why veterinary, how did you end up getting into the kind of the alternative space when it comes to veterinary, more of a functional medicine side? And yeah, give us a go.
So, I mean, like everybody that's gotten into the alternative health space, you either know somebody that got sick or you got sick, and I got sick. I developed fibromyalgia and um, intestinal permeability, leaky gut, whatever you want to call it, IBD, blah blah blah. Back in 2006, I was, eating the standard American diet, morbidly obese, and could not understand why I could not feel better. So I was very fortunate to find an MD that actually was practicing functional medicine where I lived, and he, was like, "Well, you probably want to think about changing what you're eating, and we'll do some tests, see what's going on in terms of your gut function, gut health, all of those things." And, and so finally I asked him, I said, "Okay, doc, that's great. How long is it going to take till I feel better?" And he said, "About 6 months." I'm like, damn it. But that's the thing, right? We want the pill, we want the magic pill that makes us feel better.
Quick fix.
But yeah, but if we've lived, 30 years, and at that point I think, 39, uh, just punishing our bodies with bad food, bad uh, hygiene in terms of sleep, in terms of taking care of ourselves, it's not going to take 24 hours to feel better. It is going to take time. And it's what that made me do is think, well, why isn't anybody doing this for pets? And there were a few folks out there like Dr. Rob Silver that had already gotten into the functional medicine side. And so at that time, I started studying traditional Chinese medicine, learning acupuncture, herbal therapies, and food therapy, most importantly, and then started delving into functional medicine. It's like, oh, if we're eating garbage, if we're feeding these guys, our dogs and our cats, garbage, how can we expect them to feel well?
I mean, cancer is just, I just can't believe diabetes, cancer, and it just a lot. It's like the frog in the pot analogy, right? It's just, it's slowly turning up the heat. Nobody's talking about it. It's just becoming a norm. Oh, yeah, my dog's got cancer. And I'm always like, no, why? Like this just shouldn't be normal.
Right.
So
And
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
like, why is this a normal? Why is it acceptable for 25% of all dogs to develop cancer in the United States and 50% of dogs over 10. I mean, that's absurd, absolutely absurd. That statistic is present in no other species and really in no other country. So, why is that?
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that's fascinating. And I think part of it is that our food supply is challenged, shall we say? And and
That's a
and
politically correct way of saying it. I'm like, you mean garbage?
well, that, yeah, and I think that's a lot of it too. I mean, we just unfortunately, our country has not been focused on preserving the health of its citizens, but more on, the health of corporations. But the other thing that we forget about, we're out there, we're wearing it like a badge of honor. I got my dog spayed at 4 months of age. And so that's one of the things I started thinking about in 2012 and 13 when we started seeing this explosion of cancer. Why is this? And then I remembered when I started in my veterinary career in 1990, 90% of the animals were intact and they were living outside, so their feet were on the ground. And then flip that to 2012, where 90% of the animals are spayed or neutered. And we did solve a problem to some degree, and that is pet overpopulation, but it came with a huge cost. I mean, how can we think that removing the gonads and putting our dogs and cats into menopause and andropause at the age of as early as 8 weeks to 6 months is not going to have repercussions? And I'm guilty. I did it too, but it's something that we have to figure out a solution. And maybe that's going to be something very different than what's currently on offer.
I remember that when I was working as a vet tech, and having kittens coming out of surgery. And I was just like, why are we operating on babies, and how are they gonna, get the hormones that they need to build healthy bones and have a healthy life? Like it's just so much more than the reproduction part of it. Like there's protective parts to progesterone and testosterone and all these other things that, helping them keep from cancer. So I guess that makes sense that we took that away and a lot of that protection is gone.
Yeah, it is. And I think the research that's out there now, it's crystal clear what happens in dogs is that levels of luteinizing hormone just go off the charts, like 20 to 30x normal. And then what's happening is those levels of hormone, of luteinizing hormone, are inducing receptors for it on cells that shouldn't have receptors. And the receptors are everywhere we're battling chronic disease. So in the liver, in the pancreas, type 2 diabetes, pancreatitis, adrenal glands, Cushing's disease, Addison's disease, in the brain, cognitive dysfunction, so anywhere you can tell me there's a chronic disease issue, uh, the receptors are there. And most importantly, it's in the immune system. And it's preventing the immune system from being able to surveil correctly, and that's part of why we're seeing such an astronomical increase in cancer.
Totally makes sense. So my other guess would be the second one, biggest foundation. Well, probably two toxins, environmental toxins, especially with them being so close to the ground, and I was guilty, had all the Glade scented candles and all the
Yes.
fragrance and the chemical cleaning crap, which they're just right in it,
Yeah,
and then the diet. So let's dive deeper if you wouldn't mind, into
sure.
environmental toxins and diet.
Right on. So, I mean, this is something that we're beginning to understand. Actually, a lot of us have understood for some time how toxic our world is. And part of it is because it just is. I mean, there's lots of arsenic and lead and heavy metals in natural sources of water, salts, et cetera, et cetera. But part of it's what we've created as well. And we know that pets carry a toxic burden that ranges somewhere between 6 and 93 times ours, depending on what substance we're looking at. And it's just as you said, they're down on the ground, they're snuffling up the dust particles, they're licking them off of their feet, off of their coats, and ingesting them. And that's part of why, I mean, we're not typically going around grooming ourselves, and we tend to shower uh, often on a daily basis, some of us more frequently, some of us a little less frequently. But we're not doing that for these guys. We're maybe washing them once a week and getting all the stuff off of them, but this gets absorbed through their skin, through the respiratory system, through their gut. And so their levels of intoxications are just astronomical. And then when you couple that with highly processed food, and
Hold
which
on
is
real quick.
creating,
Before
yeah,
we go to the
sure.
food,
Wait,
how
food.
what are the detox pathways of animals? Because I know like in humans it's sweat, but dogs and cats really don't sweat. They poop and they pee, but what other ways do they detox?
And that's a really good point. I mean, some of it will come out of their skin. They're not sweating, but they will have some of that happen. I mean, the number one pathway we forget is actually the lung, right? We're breathing stuff out. But if you're breathing it out and then sucking it right back in, it's really difficult to overcome. So pee, poop. And then if we think about how the gut is supposed to actually be the number two detox pathway. But if we've got the gut so banged up that the liver is now the number two detox pathway, you can see where this whole system gets into trouble really quickly because that the liver's ability to detoxify a body system that's overwhelmed and is storing toxins in fat, bone, et cetera, does not work out very well.
Nah, now this is a great segue. So talking about the banged up gut, how are we getting banged up guts?
Right. So there we go. So highly processed diet. We know that, and actually, I should back up and rephrase that. So if we use the NOVA classification system of unprocessed, minimally processed, highly processed, and ultra processed, that's really what most pet food is ultra processed food. So essentially, if we're looking at the lower quality brands that tend to be least cost ratio, meaning they're going to go for the least expensive ingredients to arrive at the desired protein, fat, carbohydrate, minerals, vitamins, et cetera, that's going to be corn. So basically, we're feeding Doritos to dogs and cats. And for cats, it's especially a problem because they are obligate carnivores. And we're feeding them a diet that is somewhere between 45% and 65% ultra processed carbohydrate.
Yeah, I love, love, love. I know my cat can act like a picky little witch every now and then, and we give her a little guilt trip. We're like, do you know the trouble I go through every 2 weeks, to
And
cook?
she's like, whatever.
I know she twitches her tail and walks away. But for the most part, she gobbles it up these days because I do. I took two of the recipes. I make turkey and rotate it with chicken, and she gets like chicken and carrots, and the turkey has got vegetables or broccoli and squash or something like that. But I just God, I feel so much better, especially when I'm seeing all these recalls because it happens all the time. You're seeing these recalls of these crappy garbage foods, with these horrible diseases and contaminations, E. coli, all this other stuff. And it's just such a blessing that I know that I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and I think, sadly, the recalls are not limited to the crappy foods. There's
Oh.
super high quality foods that are recalled as well. And I will say that the FDA is targeting raw foods, which right now that's a little dubious. Like because of the avian flu, we've seen a number of cats actually become infected with it, thankfully, for the most part, with really low symptomatology, just sort of upper respiratory signs like conjunctivitis, runny nose. But still, what we do know is that the kill step in raw food processing, which is often high pressure pasteurization, doesn't kill the virus. And
Mhm.
so this has become a big issue. So this is where cooking for your cat and your dog has actually become more important.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit more about, because a lot of people don't even realize where they're sourcing the ingredients for these ultra processed foods come from. We think meat is meat. Could you kind of shine a little light on what is actually being used?
Ooh, Google pink slime for starters. That will turn your stomach. So there's that. And the thing is that the definitions of things sound innocuous, like meat meal. Okay, super. Well, what is it? It can be, it can be. muscle meat that's been mealed out and dried up, and okay, that's not so horrible. But it can also be, what is the source of that meat? Is it, healthy cattle, in the case of beef, or is it the 4D cattle? The dead, diseased, dying, and down or something. I think that's the
Yep.
4Ds. So it's just ugly, ugly stuff, and it's a real problem for everybody, and especially the cows. I mean, we're this is sort of a they're getting fed the same ultra processed stuff. And so even when you're getting the good quality meat muscle, it may be contaminated with aflatoxins, with all of the stuff, because that's what they're being fed. And in fact, at one point, they were feeding, the 4D animals to pigs and cattle, which, pigs are sort of omnivores. So, okay, but cattle are herbivores. And so that's got to create some problems as well. So it's like the more you look, the more revolting this whole thing gets. And ultimately, if we start looking at what's in our pet food and then segue and look at what's in our food, it isn't quite that awful, but it's not a lot cleaner.
No, absolutely. I found some ins with people and their pets because a lot of times, their pets and their kids, they'll take care of better than themselves. And then so it's always a great way in. For you, it was your health, and then you segue to pets. But a lot of times I find people start with their pets and then it can segue into them, and then having them look around and go, oh God, what are we eating?
What are we? And that's exactly it. I can't tell you the number of clients I had that said, Doc, I got to thank you, because otherwise we would not have realized what we were doing to our children and to ourselves. So right on. And it's easier to, right, from your experience, it's easier to get people to change what they're doing for their pets first, and then start to look at their own health and their family's health.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive deeper into some, just give us a couple little nuggets that we can take home, the things that you can start doing today, and then also ways to dive in deeper, ways to work with her and her team. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey there, my name is Jer. I'm an art director and a graphic designer. My wife and I have two grown sons. Both are starting their young careers apprenticing in their fields of passion. And then there's our favorite son, our 7-year-old puppy, Andre. Andre has been the best addition to our family in the last decade. When the pandemic hit 3 years ago, my career was turned upside down. I started working as a contractor for a few clients and working from home. I haven't looked back since. My schedule with work is hectic and often stressful. I have two ways of dealing with my stress and anxiety. Number one is my dog Andre, and number two is my bioenergetic wearable, Nikki. When I need help with my work-life balance, I use my Nikki in stress and anxiety mode. And I have a puppy break. My Nikki touchscreen watch is pretty easy to use. It's cool that I can dial up individual frequency sets. When Andre is ready to go, I tap energy. I've been a longtime hockey coach and play in goal twice a week myself. I find the pain mode has reduced the inflammation in my legs in particular. The nighttime mode has been great. I charge my Nikki every other day at my desk. I've been wearing this cool tech for almost a year. On the latest update, I see there are some new frequency bundles. There's morning, afternoon, evening, on top of nighttime.
Nikki puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. WeAreNikki.com.
Fantastic. Welcome back. Yeah. Oh my God, did you love that first part as much as I did? Um, I can't wait to dive in deeper and find out, more of like how can we protect our pets, from cancer, from getting a lot of these other degenerative diseases that I truly feel can be, I mean, look at your 14-year-old dog right there. Like, I don't feel like that has to be the end all be all. And, with the Nikki, with energetic work, we're finding out too that animals can be so receptive to that because they don't have the blockages and the preconceived ideas that that stuff doesn't work. We've seen some really great results with dogs and with horses. I haven't tried it with my cat, but I probably because I'd have to shave a little part off of her to actually get the watch to sit right. But tell us a little bit of, give us a few practical nuggets that we can take home that we can start implementing today to help, better the health of our four-legged pets.
And I'm really glad you brought up electronic pulses and therapies because that is an incredibly useful tool. Pulsed electromagnetic field therapy is one of the things that's made an enormous difference for a lot of pets. And it's super simple. You can get a pad, turn it on for 8 hours at a whack. They can get on and off of it and support a specific thing, either pain, accelerated healing, stress relief, that sort of stuff. But that's one of the toxic areas that we didn't talk about, Heather, is
Oh,
electromagnetic
yeah.
fields in the home. So whether that's Wi-Fi, smart plugs, that kind of stuff, you need to really be cognizant of that. So there are many, many, many reports of people getting these plugs for lamps that connect to your smartphone and you can turn them on remotely. Awesome, right? Well, they're right at your dog and your cat's head level. And guess what happens when those suckers go on? It makes a lot of pets feel extremely uncomfortable and start having behavioral changes that are just, the people are like, oh gosh, what's going on? They take them to the vet, they get put on prescription medicine. And really what it was is the EMF in the home. So be cognizant of that. If your router is sitting just under your television, that's right. Again, that's right where your dog and your cat's head is. So maybe move them, turn them off at night, hardwire stuff in as best you can. And then do things that are going to support helping them feel better and not receive those effects. So grounding everything, having like a PEMF mat or something that they can ground themselves on, get them outside on the grass more frequently. That's one of the amazing things for these dogs that have lived super long lives. Like Bobby, the dog that from Portugal, they said, oh, he wasn't 31, so Guinness took his title away. He was an old dog, period. He was old. Maybe he wasn't 31, but maybe he was 28, which is still old,
Right.
right? So Bobby ate what the family ate, which is a lot of vegetables that they grew, that kind of stuff. But he was outside all the time. His feet were on the ground. And I saw a report that somebody pulled together about all the old dogs. A lot of them were eating garbage kibble, but they were outside on the ground. And so that ability to discharge energy that doesn't serve and move and keep things going is a profoundly important part of keeping our pets well and ourselves.
It's such a huge, I don't feel like it's talked about enough, especially with cats, because, cats really aren't supposed to be off leash. They can be detrimental to the environment, the birds, to the little creepy crawly things. They just kill indiscriminately. You
Because
know,
it's fun.
yeah. So they can be a really hazard on the local ecology, but they still need to go outside, So I used to I was one of those goofballs. I have a leash from a cat. We go for walks. Now we have a backyard with a 6-foot privacy fence. She actually stays in it. So how great is it that I can just open up the door and I let her out and she can go sunbathe and ground, and then I call her inside. She comes running like a dog. It's hilarious. Like people are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe your cat stays in the yard."
That's so awesome. I mean, and because, I mean, at some point, cats are not just stupid creatures by any stretch of the imagination. So when we first started traveling, we had our cat Pepe, who lived to be 14 and was an amazing travel cat. But we made an agreement. It's like, okay, buddy, you can go outside, but you got to be in by dark. And we did a lot of work with an animal communicator, and he got it. He made that agreement with us and kept it. Um, but that's part of what kept him healthy was the ability for him to go outside, do cat things, see birds, see bugs and things flying around. He was also a great mouser. So anywhere we stayed, if they had a mouse problem, they didn't by the time we left.
That's awesome.
So for that part, it's great. But yes, you're right. I mean, they are stone cold killers and it's entertainment for them. So, in that way.
Okay, it's
But
so tough because I love them so much and they're so cute and they've got this murder mittens and they are stone cold killers. It's such a conundrum, you know. But it's awesome. All right, so let's dive back. Let's go deeper into, ways that people can work with you, how they can start, changing their diet, like if people who aren't even used to cooking for themselves, how do they start cooking for their pets? And yeah, dive in and deeper into that, will you?
right on. So, I mean, we have this idea that it has to be all or nothing, right? It's kind of that's why most people
Wait,
fail.
what?
What?
You mean it's
Really?
not?
Yeah,
Can you
that's
use
why
that in a
most people.
sentence?
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's it. I mean, so like when I started into this, I'm like, and the truth is I knew when I ate something with wheat in it, it would make me feel horrible the next day. It took me 3 years to really completely stop. Okay, so let's be honest. So was it a failure every time I screwed up and ate pizza? No, it wasn't. It was an error, and I corrected the error and got better and better at not doing it. We can do the same thing with our pets. If you're feeding a crappy kibble, you're low on bucks, one of the things that you can do to optimize what your pet's eating is go get some frozen vegetables. Get a bag of Normandy blend frozen veggies. If you've got a little guy like Hayo, a couple of tablespoons in some boiling water until the vegetables are really well cooked, like almost soft, and you probably wouldn't want to eat them yourself. Um, Pour the whole thing over the top of the kibble. And what that's going to do is the moisture from the water boiling and the nutrients that you've boiled from the vegetables is going to go straight in the kibble, make it better. The fiber and the remaining nutrients in the frozen veggies are going to be there for your dog. Dogs and cats lack cellulase, which breaks down cellulose, the plant wall cell. So that's why cooking is so important. A lot of folks will say throw it in a blender to where it's finely chopped. You can do that too, but I think it's really a better bet to go ahead and just cook them and a lot easier. So pour that over your dog's food. See what happens in 2 weeks. And I think you'll be surprised what goes on. Because you're adding a lot of fiber, don't go all at once because just like you, if you decided, oh, I need to eat more fiber and you go from 5 to 30 grams of fiber, that's an uncomfortable experience at best.
We call that
Same thing.
disaster pants.
Yes, or, obstipation or constipation, neither one is fun, pretty miserable. So take it slow and it's okay. If your dog is 6 years old, again, it's gonna give yourself time. Maybe it's gonna take you 6 months to really be able to segue into doing everything that's gonna be best for your dog. So start small, work up. And then from there, you could throw in a sardine, which is if you get the stuff that's in either water packed or really high quality virgin olive oil, that's a great source of omega-3 fatty acids and a really healthy fish. But again, if you've got a 12-pound dog, don't start with a whole sardine, start with a quarter. So that we're again not creating disaster pants. That's one thing for you and me, but oh boy, is it fun to come home at night after work and your dog has had screaming diarrhea all day in the house. So we don't want to go there now. And then,
Sorry.
from there, learn what to do. So, as Heather was saying, if you're cooking for your dog or your cat, you have absolute control about what's in their bowl. And I think it ends up being less expensive many times than mid-grade to premium pet foods.
I absolutely agree. And the grocery store near me now will carry the turkey breasts for me on a regular basis. And yeah, I feel like I'm saving about a quarter of what I used to when I would buy the regular stuff. And I know the organic vegetables that I'm actually ozonating before they go in. So I'm removing even more toxins, so I really feel good about the food that I'm feeding her on a regular basis.
Right on. And that's the thing. I mean, if you can't afford anything organic, pasture raised, blah, 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 you're still miles ahead of the standard issue bag of kibble or can of food. So just do the best you can. I mean, times are tight. Just, be a value shopper. Go to a local butcher if you can find one. Costco is often has really good deals on proteins. If you've got a lot of pets, you can stock up and really be ready.
Yeah, speaking of a lot of pets, how many do you have right now?
Just Hio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we've been traveling since we sold everything we own in 2018. We've been traveling ever since. We started out with Pepe, our cat, and our dachshund Mona. And in 20, Hio was my mom's dog, and my mother unfortunately developed very advanced lung cancer and died very quickly. But we were honored to be there to make her transition as easy as possible. So after that, Hio started traveling with us. Mona was 16 and a half at the time and was there to teach Hio the ropes and then was ready to go on to her next step pretty shortly after that.
I must be remembering from watching your course, and I think that's when before you moved and you had a lot of animals. And so that's why
We
my brain,
did.
yeah, you did have
Right
quite a
on.
bit.
Yeah, yeah. No, we had 5 dogs and 5 cats.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was remembering.
Yeah, and so right as we were getting ready to move, actually most of the dogs had died of old age. They were 15, 16, 17. So we just had Mona left, and then we had a number of cats, most of whom decided they would rather go live with other folks. So it was just perfect. It was very easy for us to start traveling.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us about what you're putting out in the world right now. Like, what are you promoting? How can people learn more?
Right on. So there's what I've spent the last 2 years doing is training people to be holistic pet health coaches. And actually, Heather, I think we have 5 or 6 FDN graduates that have become holistic pet health coaches. And I modeled this after the human industry because what you are able to do as a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner is exactly what needs to happen on the veterinary side. We need to help educate people what to do nutritionally for their pets, what to do with supplements, how to avoid toxins, how to minimize the need for pharmaceuticals, what to do about vaccines, all of those things. And unfortunately, pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID, access to veterinary care has gotten very, very difficult and expensive. And it's difficult to have a conversation about things that don't sort of fit the standard of care, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could say
Um,
other things, but yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's awesome. I love that. I know, and I was so tempted in the beginning, but I have a tendency to have that shiny, syndrome. And
Yeah,
oh, I mean, I moved to Colorado to become a veterinary student. Like that was my dream my whole life. But then I developed really bad allergies towards animals once I moved here and I shifted gears. And then when I met you and I was like, oh my God, here's a chance to pivot and go back to my dream, but I needed to stay the course of kind of what I was trying to build. And I'm glad I did because now I'm with a cancer doctor and doing amazing things in her practice. But I'm still a little jealous of the folks that got to go through your course. And maybe someday it'll bring me back there, but who knows?
right
Um,
on.
so tell us a little bit more about, how people can work with you or work with one of these coaches or become one of these coaches.
Right. So if you're struggling with your dog, your cat, you've done everything the vet said, and you're still not seeing improvement, this is where a coach can be critically important for you. Super easy. You just go to my website, drruthroberts.com, click on Find a Coach. You're going to see all of the graduates there, along with any other credentials they may have, and the sort of the specific areas where they focus. We have several coaches that are animal communicators that offer energy work. We have coaches that are really experienced with ex-police dogs. I mean, it's just amazing the vast amount of experience in different modalities people are able to apply to support you and your pets. And what I think you'll find is that process is very similar. They're going to walk you through. They're going to want your information in terms of, what's happened in the past, veterinary records, if that's possible, and then they'll go on a call with you, figure out kind of the best place to start, and offer you a support package. Because, like we've been talking about, I wanted the magic pill to be better in 2 days. It wasn't going to be that. It was going to take 6 months of working with this doctor and having the support to pivot when necessary.
Absolutely. And then I know there's a discount that you're giving the viewers today. So if they use the code
Right on.
Nikki, Nikki, what's that all about?
Yeah, let's do NIKKI 10. And so basically you drop that code, go choose a coach you want to work with, drop that code in, and you will get a 10% discount off of the consultation with a coach. You'll be very happy that you did this.
Woohoo! That's awesome.
Yeah,
When I was going through before I met FDN, I was trying to do so much on my own. And I got, I was a great advocate for myself, but it was really hard. It can be really hard to not know what you don't know. And a lot of times the answers are right there on the tip of your nose and you can't see them. And so a
right on.
coach is really, really great to help tie these pieces together. They help add accountability. They help add structure and be your cheerleader, right? Because this can be hard because, a lot of times it's talking about lifestyle changes and that can be rough. But I'm working with a coach. That's why all the successful people in the world, and they have, I think I heard Oprah, it was Lisa Nichols talking about Oprah one day, and Oprah asked Lisa Nichols, how many coaches do you have? And Lisa was like, oh God, is this some kind of a trick question? And she was like, 3. And, Lisa was wondering, how many should I have? And Oprah, so she asked the question of Oprah, and Oprah said, I have one for every place in my life that's important to me, right? Business,
Wow.
health, relationship, think about it, because most of us didn't have the blueprint, right, of how to take care of ourselves. Most of us were brought up with, this is a part of a balanced breakfast. Bullshit. That's diabetes in the making, right?
Yeah, right on.
So
Yeah.
coaches, I'm a huge fan.
And I get it. I mean, that's kind of like similar to you. I had a lot of things where I had to guide myself through mold exposure.
Oh,
And it finally got to the point where, okay, I've done everything I know how to do, and I'm no dummy, but either I'm not seeing something or I don't know the right tricks. And so that's where working with somebody is incredibly critical to
yeah.
get to that next level of wellness.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And make sure to go visit her website. Also, make sure to visit wearenikki.com/podcast. Enter in BioBeats for 10% off your Nikki. And because we really love our customers, and the way we show appreciation is we give away a Nikki device and the wellness frequencies on every single episode. It's a $598 value. So make sure to go to the show notes to check out how you can enter to win. Good luck. Thank you for joining us, and have a healthy day.
The very first day that I wore the device, I slept through the night, which is amazing.
It looks like a little watch, but it's actually a frequency device. It's bioenergetic, so it has this little frequency light situation that goes into your arm, and it pretty much makes an immediate difference.
So there's like a sleep mode. When I go mountain biking, I throw it on energy booster. Once I'm done mountain biking, I actually switch it to the other mode they have is pain and relief.
When I'm in a stressful situation and I put it on, it helps me almost immediately. I immediately feel calmer, whether that's a frequency or me knowing that it's working or knowing that it's helping in addition to that.
One of my buddies was like, do not discount this. This is an amazing device. You've got to give it a chance.
It's got so many options. I'm just going to go over, it's like a menu that you can choose. It's so easy to use. You just click on what you like. For example, it's got travel, pain relief, energy boost, allergies.
I really, really love this device. In fact, I have 2 of them because when one is charging, I want to wear the other because I'm never without it.
It will never give you something when your body doesn't need, and it is not natural. That's what I love about the device.
Put it on focus, maybe halfway through the day as I was losing focus. And within about 10 minutes of turning on, I feel like my brain is just like, I'm connected. Like, wow.
Trying all the frequencies, and I love it. The one I'm using right now out on my walk is energy. It just energizes me. And I'm finding that I've got more stamina and more energy than I thought I would.
My Nikki helps me sleep better at night and helps me feel less stressed.
I really been enjoying it. So I've noticed my energy's been up. I've been sleeping better.
So the Nikki is one price, and then you pay for the frequency sets separately. So you can get the wellness one, which is awesome. I really do love the new Lyme frequencies so much. It's incredible.
Nikki Wellness Technology. Delivering frequency enhanced health. wearenikki.com. The views, information, and opinions expressed in this content are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Free Medica. Free Medica Technologies, Inc. and its employees are not responsible, nor verifies accuracy any of the information contained in the following content. The primary purpose of this content is to educate and inform. This content does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services.